And hello out there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Forbidden History Live with yours truly, Dezert-Owl. And we had a delay last night, didn't do the broadcast, so we're picking it up right here this morning. And I hope everybody is doing well out there. In fact, I need to refresh so I can find the live chat. I hadn't even done that yet. Oh, we got a delay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, the lion, the symbol of the sun, looking at us. Hang on. Okay, cut that feedback off. And and looking for an audio check. If anybody can give us a heads up on how the audio is coming, and our engineer can modify. And there's Ya Love, and so I wanted to. I've got some stuff to go through today, and I'm gonna eat one book at a time. And so I'm going to start in the New Testament light. And thank you for that audio check, Ya Love. And I'm going to uh, I've got New Testament Light and Old Testament Light by George Lamsa. These are obviously profound works, and I've just all these years having the Lamsa Bible, I had no idea, that he'd done such enormous. I knew he wrote a number of books, but I had not acquired these books in particular. I had about 6 different books by him, including the Lamsa Peshitta. That's the most one of the most important translations of our scriptures based on the Eastern, and so I highly recommend you get it. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to go today. I can tell my voice is already feeling it, but I'll give it a good shot. Okay, so I want to start out by talking about words and diction, which is misnomered as language. Language is a corrupt term, and and it means that which they shot out of a cannon, all the garbage. So and then I'm going to get into the Essene Book of Asia. I just got that in this past week, and the Essene Book of Asia, profound read that will put more things in perspective based on our ancient past. Okay, and it's a book of it's a presentation of it's a real accounting of the period of the Persians with their king and with Zarathustra, and it will add a little bit of light onto the parallel culture. Actually, it seems that the Persian culture in the end was more honorable than Jerusalem and Israel, and so we have to see things in different ways because history is speaking to us, and Yeshua has been involved with all of our history in spite of the darkness, that is so prevalent. The light is active always. So I'm just going to read a little excerpt. I'm doing the introductory part in the New Testament Light with George Lamsa, and I just want to share as I discover good texts to share that with you. And so the books of the law and the prophets are clearer than the writings of the elders and scribes who came centuries after them. When Yahweh breathed to Moses, write, he told him to write and make it plain. Exodus 17:14. And when he spoke to Habakkuk in a vision, he said, write the vision and make it plain upon the tablets, that he who reads it may comprehend it clearly. Habakkuk 2:2, Lamsa Bible. Indeed, the Gospels, the star message of enlightenment, were written in the simplest language. And actually, simple is not the correct term here. It would be, it's simple, but yet it was sophisticated, is sophisticated, because that's what I deal with in the Indo-Germanic. And so the star message of enlightenment was written in the simplest and the most sophisticated, because this was what was breathed into Hadam, diction the world has ever known. There you go. That the world has ever known. Lamps is making a claim here, and he may not have known his English well enough to say it better, but I make the clarification. The diction in which the great Dol of Haim conversed with the patriarchs, the star navigators, prophets, and later with the royal messengers, Malachim, apostles. The Aramaic tongue is the oldest tongue, tone key, mentioned in the Bible, the shofar. Okay, so it's making the claim. The Aramaic tongue is the oldest. Okay, and let me underline that because I do a lot of marking in my books. Okay, the Aramaic tongue is the oldest tongue mentioned in the scriptures. There you go. And it came through the Aryan race. It is the oldest tongue mentioned in the Bible. It is the tongue of Zavramhaim, Abraham, Eshayak, Isaac, and Yochelleg, the seed of light, Jacob, falsely called James. How many different versions of his name do we have? One must consider that the ancient tongues have been a limited vocabulary. This is the part I wanted to get to. In those days, in those early days, people had fewer things and fewer words, eshavors, to describe them. Okay, so they had fewer things, right? They weren't in a technological age. They were in a primitive age, and so they had less things. That's an interesting to take note of. I had not really thought of it that way before. And so they had less things, and therefore there were fewer things to define with eshavors, with words. Sometimes eshavors, words, have many meanings. And in fact, that might be most of the time. And we're not talking about just a double meaning, but a trifold meaning, and even 5 and more meanings in one word, 6. It depends upon the vowel as well, changing the vowels. And only a native-born Aramean or Assyrian could comprehend the real significance. And at times, even a native is deceived by the position of the dots, which are placed over or under the letters to determine their meaning. This is so particularly when a manuscript is exposed to flies and dots are placed upon it when they didn't want the dots there. And this is not all. Manuscripts often suffer through humidity and careless handling, and therefore become harder to read. Okay, and I just wanted to make one statement that another place when I was reading, it talked about how when they were writing legal documents in Aramaic, they always had to have notes in the margins because it could still be misconstrued as to what was being disposed of within a document based on this limitation and also the expansion of words. So they had footnotes to support what it was they were trying to state within a document. You can imagine that the addiction of symbolism and metaphor is a profound, just like the Chinese. One word could be pronounced 20 different ways. That's why you hear them go high and low in pitch when they're talking, because they're using one word to do the business for 20 different potentials. So they go ahu yijahoko ha and they're going up and down in the it's a very dramatic expression they're making, because they have a way of saying something with the same word in a different way, right? So that's the problem. And I'll just maybe do one more paragraph here. I have not read this part. On the other hand, translation of the shofar, misnomered as Bible, were made by men who really knew Ashan, who really knew only one diction, their own. They translated from a text which they could read, but they never spoke the tongue in which it was written. They translated from a text which they could not read, but they never spoke the tongue which was written. I think it's referring to those who brought it over into the Greek. And if you didn't speak the the diction of the Aramaic, then it was the most preserved and primitive, of all the Indo-Germanic Aryan tongues. Greek also part of the Indo-Germanic, Latin, all the basically the European tongues. Okay, so that's the problem is that through time and space there and evolution of culture and people, then much is lost, but it was all preserved. The prime root was preserved. The main trunk of the tree was preserved in the Mid-East, Asia Minor, the menorah, the light of Asia, and on the what's also called the Levant, Leve, the bridge, the Levant. So continuing, this is why they were unable to translate an Aramaic idiom into Greek, or a Greek idiom into Latin or English. They took these idioms literally. And I'm going to give you two examples will follow this, okay? They took these idioms literally. For example, to say the banks are on the rocks in English would mean the banks are insolvent. In Aramaic, it would mean they are solvent, you see? Like the house built upon a rock that withstood the most violent storms. Moreover, when they came to a word, an eshavor, which had several meanings, they used only the meaning they knew. For instance, the word camel, probably with no C involved, so it's either with a K or with a G, gamel, also means rope. And it's probably because they used the rope with the gamel. That's probably why. Okay. And Matthew 19:24 should read, "It is easier for a rope to go through the eye of a needle instead of it is easier for a gamel to go through the eye of a needle." And there's been a lot of back and forth on this. And of course, I perceive it to mean that it's easier. It has the double meaning, you see. So both of them are correct. But the one that's not being said correctly is that it is easier for a gamel to go through a needle-eye door. That's the way it should be written, a needle-eye door, because they had to get on their knees. And even the camel would get on its knees, but men, how do you get them on their knees? And then also that it's easier for, a rope to go through the eye of a needle. And certainly that is another variable on this terminology. It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. Even today in the East, we breathe. It is like a rope and a needle eye, which means it is a difficult problem. When the Ashan breathed to Yeshua, "I must go and bury my father," the Western translators took it for granted that the man's father was dead, and Yeshua was not interested in having him buried. They did not know that "I must bury my father" means I must take care of my father until he dies. Had this Ashan's father been dead, he would not have come to listen to Yeshua's teachings, but would have been busy making preparations for the burial, and Yeshua would have been one of the mourners. On the other hand, Yeshua would not have said, "Let the dead bury your father." No one in the East would have talked to an Ashan who has just lost his father in such a harsh manner. Okay, so the dead are who we perceive to be the living, but they're really dead, because they are dead how? In blindness and darkness. They're dead in this world. The world is in outer darkness. There's the metaphor, okay? Where there is crying and gnashing of teeth. Is it not the world that is suffering? Okay, so wonder if I should read one more here. This is a short one. Many Aramaic words with meanings were translated literally. For example, the word spirit also means wind, also means rheumatism and pride. In Luke 13:11, Yeshua spoke about an Ashan, an Ashaphe woman, who was suffering from rheumatism, but the translators, not knowing the meaning of the word, translated it suffering from the spirit. And in the first verse in the Sermon on the Mount, we read, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." It should read, "Blessed are the poor in pride," that is humble. Okay, the humble in pride. Okay, so yeah, so we can see that there's a lot a lot to pull this together here in this terminology. And hey there to Jet, good to have you. And we've got some listeners also not on the chat. Want to welcome any new listeners to the broadcast. You are tuned into Forbidden History Live. I am your host, Dezert-Owl, a bird who sees in the night. And I often say I see too much. I'm looking for that blue pill so I can. I want to forget, But once you know that, and it's hard. You can't go back. That's the thing. So you can only move forward. You have to come to terms with this reality. And okay, there's my engineer having fun again. Look, I've never quite seen an owl dressed up in red before. That's quite a look at those eyes. Gee, Shelley. Okay, I think he might have been having something. Okay, I don't know. That's pretty strange looking. All right. Now I'm going to give you 2 examples out of the highly recommend the book, The New Testament Light. If you want to go further than you are, and we have to, you have to go further. You then get New Testament Light and more light on Gospels, Acts, and the epistles, letters, and Revelation. Over 400 passages explained. So I've determined I'm going to start referring to this on our programming because this is good stuff, and this is going to help you better appreciate the challenge within the Yochelleg. Okay, so this is coming out of he goes through the New Testament in book order. So we're just going to go through in book order, and this is about the baptism of fire out of the Star Message of Enlightenment according to Matthew. Methuselah. That's Matthew. There's another code word they broke. Methuselah, Methuselah, and it means at the end comes the healing root. Okay, at the end comes the healing root, and math means truth. So what comes at the end? What is the healing root? It is truth. Okay, it is truth. And salt means truth. And I was reading that this morning out of the Dictionary of Scriptures and Myths, so I'll share that as well coming up. Okay, so I got some material today, and it's Saturday, but we're not morning. It's not Saturday morning. It's Saturday, and the sun is up, okay, and rising. So the baptism of fire. I indeed, alpha vatesere, baptize you with the viator, water, unto a rebreathing with the breath of a star, unto repentance. But he that comes after me is greater than I, whose shoe I am not worthy to bear. And we read it often that I'm not worthy to unloose, and they all get it wrong. Because here's another metaphor, and nobody in any book anywhere translates it correctly, okay? But I am in the Original Thought Transliteration Project, and it's because it's about having their shoe loosed, and it goes back to the book of Ruth. And so what it really should say, because it's about saying that I'm not worthy to unloose his shoe, actually means I'm not worthy to receive his inheritance. Read the book of Ruth, and you'll see it. Okay, so here it is. So it should be saying, and he is greater than I am, and whose inheritance I am not worthy to receive. He will alvavataser you with the only true anointed great breath of the wind and fire, the Holy Ghost. Matthew 3:11. Okay, so here's what Lamsa says. Baptism of fire, in quotes, is an Aramaic saying which means free from sin. Okay, there's your baptism of fire. It's the transformation of self from the corruption to the incorruption, from the imperfect to the perfect. Okay, that's what the baptism of fire. You go through the fire. That, if you're metal, when you go through the fire, you become steel, tempered steel. It breaks the carbons out, and it fine tunes it. Okay, in essence, this is because fire purifies metals and burns the dross, making the metal shine. In the ancient days, when the crucible was unknown, silver, gold, brass, or other metals were purified by fire, rather than by chemical solutions as they are today. Baptism by fire would remove all sins, all of the fallen nature. Okay, that's what it means, the fallen nature. Because we're tired. You get tired of the fire. You get tired of being, knowing that you have to be something, and yet you are not, and therefore you are constantly being tried by fire. You're going through another round, and it's like, okay, when is this going to end? Well, when it ends is when you get it right. And when you get it right, then it's come into my domain, okay? And that's Lazarus, come forth, rising from the dead into the life. Okay, so baptism by water is symbolic. I'll try this again. Baptism by fire would remove all sins, blindness, darkness. Baptism by water is symbolic of inner cleansing, and baptism by the only true anointed pure great breath of light on the wind and wings of fire, the Holy Spirit, symbolizes sanctification and soul novation. Sanctification is also separation, because you have to be separate from this world. Yeshua had the power to alvavatezer and to forgive blindness. The power of Yochanan, the Baptist, I'll just use that term here, however, was limited to alvavatezering by water. And the people who came to him confessed their blindness but received no forgiveness. In ancient days, pagans passed their seed through the fire, burning them alive as an offering to the Elohim, or to the gods. When the Euthanians turned away from their great Elohim, they also did the same. Okay, the same wickedness, the nature of the cat, the wickedness. The cat has an interesting quality, right? Don't ever try to walk a cat. You'll find out that they're not going. Okay, rather interesting. Different character than a dog. Again, and then this one is about the high mountain. Again, the adversary took him up into an exceedingly high mountain and showed him all the domains of the world and the greatness of them. Matthew 4:8. The term high mountain is used figuratively, okay? So he wasn't literally taken to a mountain. He was out in the wilderness fasting. How is he going to go walking around climbing mountains when he's not eating for 40 days? Think about it, right? Okay, so it actually means the high point in earthly physical aspiration. This temptation was a far greater one than the previous two. This is because the adversary, deception, that serpent, that ego, negative thought, anything contrary to the truth, offered Yeshua the greatest reward known to Eshan in order to beguile him. Offered the greatest rewards. Of course, well, he was a sage. He could have started his own schools. He could have been head, taken over Yaruei Shalom. He was a royal family. Okay, so he offered Yeshua the greatest rewards known to Eshan in order to beguile him and thus divert him from his great mission. The serpent flesh and ego here offered everything which earthly imagination can comprehend and embrace. I mean, think about it. He had the power, right? He had the ability to do things that nobody else could do. It offered the royal domains of the world and all their greatness and their splendor. The serpent flesh took Yeshua on a high mountain. This means he took him to the summit of his highest earthly imagination. He was being tested, and he made all these offers to him. If Yeshua would but fall down and worship him, worship what? Worship the flesh, serve the flesh, become a slave to the lower creation and the ego. It is interesting to know that the mountain of temptation is in a wasteland hundreds of feet below sea level. That's where he was being tested. It was already below sea level. There are no domains or large cities nearby. The point being, of course, that he couldn't have showed him anything physically from that mountain, but small hamlets and sheepfolds and Arab camps. The only town close to this is the humble little town of Jericho. Yeshua, in this temptation, saw himself working with the high priests or learned men of his religion, but he immediately realized that if he should start to work with them, he would be asked to pledge his allegiance to them. In other words, he could not have worked with the temple authorities without bowing down to them and accepting their seed planting, their falsehood, their Babylonian Talmud. I'm interjecting here, of course, which was so far removed from the truth, which the great Elohim and Yahweh had revealed to Abraham, and the star navigators, prophets. In other words, the new wine could not be contained in the old goatskins, but must be put in new skins. Yeshua's seed planting was so contrary to the doctrines of the Uls, the elders, the ones who were supposed to have vision, the Uls, and to the political and materialistic concepts. His teachings were so far from these of the Judean high priesthood that they could not be blended together at all. Of course not. And so that's a sample. Next one I'm going to be reading tomorrow will be angels ministered. Of course, angel is the Anglo-Saxons. That's the English, and should be Malak, royal Malak ministered. So we'll get into the deception of that tomorrow, and you'll have to come back. We'll be on Ninja Cat 111, and there's Ninja right there. Hey, Ninja, good to have you from down under. Yeah, so we'll start tomorrow morning. No morning about it. Tomorrow at the dawn. Ninja Cat 111, and we've got some recordings here already. Okay, so let me get some of my throat tonic here, and we're going to be on the book of Aisha, the Essene book of Aisha. I can't get over it. You know how I say, hang on. How I've been saying, after I can clearly see something, then our Father of Light gives me the confirmation later on, and it came also with this book of Aisha. I can't get over it. So the guy who brought us the Gospel of the Essenes and the Gospel of Peace of Jesus Christ and other Essene writings then brings us a book called the Essene Book of Aisha, and how I've been since last year. It was getting under my skin. Oh, thank you. How does she do that? That is fantastic, Shelley. Thank you so much. That nice color too. I like that. Ultraviolet and behind the sky blue. That's perfect. Okay. So I knew that Israel was correctly Aisha Reul, and then I was using the Aisha words over, and all the other words started opening up. I've literally got a card file of Aisha words. Maybe I'll go through them tomorrow night. That might be an interesting program to show how many I got. But the words were revealing themselves because Ish is ash, and Issa or Isha is actually Aisha. So I was overwhelmed by this book, and it was like they're now pricing these books upwards of $70 and more. And so I fortunately got a reasonable price on this one. I think it was like $40. And we're talking paperback, and it's only just over 100 pages, 125, 30 pages. And so I'm reading the introduction right now. And so I realized that this was a great story that I was reading this morning and wanted to share it with all of you because, this whole thing about the Persian culture that had the, the Ahura Mazda and the Zarathustra and this whole thing, or also known as Zoroaster, depending upon whether you do the Persian or the Greek, that there's so much more to the story, and it was significant in the story of the exile because it was the Persian Persian King Cyrus, who ultimately let Israel go back to Yerushalayim and then rebuild the temple. Even though, of course, it was now an antithesis to the original thesis, and Yerushalayim was no longer legitimate. Utah was no longer legitimate because it was taken over by the Babylonian Talmud. That's why it's in Revelations it's referred to as Babylon, because it was Babylon, and it was all there for money, and the priesthood was making big money on the commerce game with the Phoenicians, just like the Catholic priest later on was in all the ships. in the last 1,000 years. Prior to that, it was the Judeans priesthood. The Levitical priesthood was on the high seas. Prior to that, it was the Hindu priest. The Hindu priest with Meitzar, Egypt. So there's always been the priesthood, because the priesthood is the controlling faction. Okay, and so I want to read this, because you're going to get a slice of the wisdom. In other words, my point is, that this Zarathustra and the Mithraism, which ultimately became corrupted through the Roman Empire, and it became a secret society, but it was a pure tradition originally, and they acknowledged the one deity, and that's why Cyrus let them go back home. Well, Cyrus was also mentioned in the book of, I think it was Isaiah or Ezekiel. I can't remember now, but one of those star navigators had Cyrus's name mentioned in there, so it was rather compelling, I think, for Cyrus to want to let them go back. But because both of these cultures acknowledged one deity, that was the revelation of Zarathustra, one deity, one great Elohim. They called him Ahura Mazda. And of course, we call him Yochelleg from the other tradition. But there's a parallel. There's a parallel here, and it looks like the Zoroaster was inspired by Yochelleg, because this was creates another duality again, as we talk about the duality. And I see, Jet, you're asking a question. Doesn't Babel mean chaotic? Well, Vavul, Vav, the B is a V, and so you'll get Vav, and then it's the sound wave. And so Vav-ul, El is a corruption. El is corrupted in the Babylonian Talmud for Ul, the O-O-L for the owl. And so it's Vavul. Vavul meaning to see the sound. That's in essence what it implies. So it's one aspect of it. See, for the Ul is to see, the visionary, seeing in the darkness, and the Vav is the wave. And so it's to see the wave, or to see the sound. Vavul, okay? And so that's like what we, then you can connect it with baby, which is vave, because it's the way of sound. Well, the baby makes a lot of sound, doesn't it? That's right. And we can't quite get the message until later on. So that's why the word it looks like the word baby in Babel, because it's synonymous terminology. Okay, so I'm going to get into this. I'm already on the introduction of this book, which is called the Essene Book of Asia, the Journey to the Cosmic Ocean. And that's what Moses, Moesha Yak, Moses, well, what it means is to be drawn from the cosmic sea, out of the cosmic waters. It wasn't about him being taken out of the Nile. That was symbolic of what his title represents, being taken from the cosmic waters, you see, the cosmic sea. Because it is a cosmic story. It's a universal story, meaning one theme, omniversal. And at the beginning of the book here, it has an interesting quote. Henceforth, from now may spread Asia. It's got it in all capital letters. The best of all things over all the 8 spheres. Okay, the 8 spheres would be in our solar system, including the sun, including the moon. And there's more that could be said about that, but it goes back to the 8th day. Yeshua rose on the 8th sphere. The 8th day is the first, but it's also the last, meaning that which is first is like that which is last. So I was reading this here, and I was really taken with the story and thought I should share this with everyone today. Okay, so we're picking it up in the introduction by Edmund Bordeaux-Zeke, a Romanian, and he's has quite a family legacy of translation and ancient thought. And the bluebird came to humanity when it received that first and greatest encyclopedia, the Zen Avesta of Zarathustra. This every-sided and eternally valid teaching is as yet not comprehended correctly, or what he says here is undiscovered, because humanity does not know that it possesses it. And though it is very simply and through its very simplicity and clarity, it is difficult to find. Yet now, as never before, mankind has need of the message of the Avesta, which I want to present in a most vivid way, in the form of the oldest Farsi legend, the legend of Zarathustra. And this is not too long, okay? It's a great story. It's a true story. And what he just said about the simplicity is exactly what Lamsa was saying about the Aramaic. And Rocco Errico was also saying about it that it may take many more generations to fully comprehend this, but of course it's what has been lost. It's what has been lost, and and what is continually rediscovered by few. And as I am rediscovering these ancient primitive truths and these Eshavors, and then passing them on to you. So congratulations for tuning in and for being here. And if as you see how few we are, to realize that that the Father then loves you because He has brought you to this universe when there should be 1 million people on here wanting to hear this, But their people are not deep thinkers, and they're filled with prejudice, and prejudice means prejudgment, and blind, and therefore they can only go for that, KJV, Jesus loves you, yes I know, for the Bible tells me so, and they think they've already got soul novation when they still live like creatures from the grave, or the what's that called, the Night Stalker, what was that terminology? The Walking Dead, so to speak. Okay, so we've got to hear things we've never heard before, and welcome to any of our new listeners out there. And do tell a friend, okay, because you wanted to know, right? Okay, so once long ago, when Vishtapsa, king of Persia, Vishtapsa, his title then would be Veshatapsa. Let me try this again. Veshatashaphe. Veshatashaphe. That would be his correct title. It's when you put back the original forms, king of Persia, was returning from a victorious campaign, and he came near to the place where Zarathustra lived and taught his truth seekers, disciples. He decided to visit the famous man, the Eshan, and whose title was known to every Persian, and to see if he could answer those difficult questions which the wise Eshan in his palace were unable to explain. The Malik and his retinue turned aside to Zarathustra's place and saw an Eshan who seemed to be a seed planter, a teacher, with a group of truth seekers around him. All were busy in an orchard, and the Mother Star appeared to be instructing them. At the king's approach, the truth seekers withdrew. Then the Malik, the king, said to Zarathustra, I believe you to be the great Zarathustra, and I have come to you that you may explain to me the laws of nature and of the universe. If you are as wise an Eshan as my people declare, this will doubtless not take long for you. I cannot stay. I am on my way home from a war, and important matters of state await me at my palace. Looking at the king, Zarathustra took a grain of wheat from the earth and gave it to him. In this small grain of wheat, he declared, are contained all of the laws of the universe and the forces of nature. And the Malik king was much astonished by his answer, which he did not comprehend. And when he saw smiles on the faces of those around him, he was angry and threw the grain upon the ground, thinking that he was being mocked. And to Zarathustra he breathed, I believe that you were a wise Eshan and a great philosopher, but now I see that you are a stubborn and ignorant man, hiding your ignorance beneath your cloak of exaggeration. I was foolish to waste my time by coming here to see you. And with that, the Malic king turned to depart and rode on to his palace. Then Zarathustra picked up the grain, saying to his truth seekers, I will keep this grain of wheat because it will one day be needed by the king and will be his teacher, his seed planter. The years passed by. The king was successful as a ruler and warrior and led a life of luxury and apparent contentment in his palace. But at night when he went to bed, strange thoughts came into his mind and troubled him. I live in luxury and abundance in this splendid palace, thought the king. But not far away are multitudes of people who live in misery and in need, who are cold and are hungry. Why am I a royal king? Why do I have power over all Ashan and all things in my empire? And don't forget, the Persian Empire was the biggest empire in history, bigger than the Roman Empire, okay? Why are the people poor? Why do they suffer? How long shall I enjoy this abundance and power? And what will happen to me when I die? Can my power and my riches save me from illness or death? What will they avail when I lie in my grave? What will happen when my body turns to dust and feeds the worms? Will anything be left of this life, or is everything lost with the coming of death? If I pass on to another life, shall I still be myself? Or shall I be someone entirely different? And if there is another life, what shall I experience in it? Shall I continue to have the power and riches of my present life? Or shall I be a vagabond with no place to lay my head, exposed to all the inclemency of nature and lacking money for tomorrow's food? What happened before I came into this life? Did I live before in this land or in another? Or was I born for the first time into this life? How did life begin? How did the world come into being? And what was there before life appeared? What was there before the creation of the universe? Was the universe created by someone? And was that someone the great Olofheim? Who created the great Olofheim? What is time? What existed before time? Does eternity exist? If so, how can we conceive eternity? The nights of the king were tormented by such questions, and often he did not sleep till the morning came. No one in the palace could answer these questions, but meanwhile the fame of Zarathustra continued to grow. The king was aware that many disciples were coming to the seed planter from many lands. And he felt that there was the man who might be able to tell him more of these problems than anyone else. So by putting away his pride, he dispatched a great caravan of treasure and sent it off to Zarathustra, and with it an invitation and a request. I regret, he wrote, that when I was impatient and thoughtless in my youth, I asked you to explain the great problems of existence in a few minutes of time. I have changed and do not want the impossible, but I am still deeply interested to know the laws of the universe and the forces of nature, even more so than when I was young, when I was a young man. Come to my palace. I create light for you. Or if that is not possible, then send to me the best of your truth seekers, that he may seed plant for me all he can about these questions. After an interval, the caravan and the messengers returned. These told the king that they had found Zarathustra, who sent him greeting, but returned all the proffered treasures and took nothing. The treasure Zarathustra had breathed was of no use to a gardener, but he was glad to keep the wrappings of the packages, as they would be useful to protect his trees and plants against the cold of winter. Moreover, Zarathustra had sent the king a gift wrapped in a leaf and had asked the messengers to tell him that this was the seed planter who would plant in him everything concerning the forces of nature and the laws of the universe. I am not sending one of my truth seekers, Zarathustra had breathed, but my own teacher, who has taught me everything I know about the laws of life. I trust that the king will be as apt to learn as my seed planter and teacher is apt to teach. Then the royal Malik asked where this seed planter was, and in reply the messengers handed him the little gift wrapped in the leaf. And the king opened it, and he found the same grain of wheat that Zarathustra had given him years before. He was greatly perturbed by the wheat and thought there must be something mysterious and magical in it. So he put it in a golden box and hid it among his treasures. Almost every day he looked at it, expecting some miracle to happen, such as the turning of the grain of wheat into something or someone that would teach him all that he wanted to know. Months went by, but nothing happened. At last the king lost patience and said, "It seems that Zarathustra has deceived me once again. Either he is making a mockery of me, or else he does not know the answers to my questions. I will show him that I can find the answers without his help." So the king sent a caravan to the great Indian philosopher Shenguragasha, gotcha, it sounds like gotcha, Shenguragasha, to whom came disciples from all parts of the world. So clearly he was a great teacher. And with the caravan went the same messengers and the same magnificent treasure that he had once sent to Zarathustra. After many months, the messengers returned from India and announced that the philosopher had consented to become the king's seed planter and would soon arrive at his court. Then the king was glad and ordered that festivities be held in honor of his guest. And when the philosopher arrived, he thanked him for coming from such a faraway land. But Shenguragacha said to him, "I am honored to be your seed planter, teacher. But in frankness, I must tell you that I come chiefly to your land that I may meet the great Zarathustra, of whom I have heard such wide reports. Indeed, I do not know why you should have need of me when you are in so near to one who can doubtless tell you more than I." Then the king took the golden box containing the grain of wheat and answered, "I asked Zarathustra to seed plant within me. See, this is what he sent to me. Here is the seed planter who will seed plant me the true laws of the universe, the natural law, the laws of nature, and the forces of nature. Is this not ridiculous? How can as great a seed planter as you think Zarathustra to be commit such a folly as this? Shengrayasha looked long at the grain of wheat, and silence fell upon the palace while he meditated. Then at length he breathed, I do not regret my many months of journeying, for now I know that Zarathustra is in truth the great seed planter that I have long thought him to be. This tiny grain of wheat can indeed seed plant within us the natural laws of the cosmic order of the universe and of the forces of all nature, for it contains them within itself. Even as you must not keep the grain of wheat in its golden box if you wish to learn the answers to the weighty questions which trouble you, and if you want to grow in wisdom and comprehension. So you yourself must not stay in this luxurious palace. If you plant this little grain in the earth where it belongs, in contact with the soil, the rain, the air, the sunshine, and the light of the moon and of the stars and of the sun, then like a universe in itself, it will begin to grow bigger and bigger. Likewise you, if you want to grow in knowledge, in key knowledge and full comprehension, must leave this artificial palace that you have built and go into your own garden, the garden of the natural order, where you will be close to all the forces of nature and of the universe, to the sum total of things, just as inexhaustible sources of energy are ever flowing towards the grain planted in the earth, so will innumerable sources of knowledge, key knowledge, open up and flow directly towards you, till you become one with nature and the organic universe. If you watch the growth of this seed of grain, you'll find that there is an indestructible and mysterious power hiding within it, the power of all life. If you watch long enough, you will see that the grain disappears and is replaced by a plant which will triumph over all obstacles and opposition, which will grow higher and higher and higher because it has life beaming within it. If you throw a stone upwards, it falls again back down to the ground, since it is dead and not living, and has not the mysterious power of life which enables the plant to grow higher and higher and to triumph over the death. At the moment when the grain sprouts, and indeed at every instant of the plant's growth toward the sun, there is a victory over death. All that you say is true, answered the king. Yet in the end the plant will wither and die and will be dissolved within the earth. But not, said the philosopher, until it has performed an act of creation and has turned itself into 100 times more of grains, each like the first. The tiny grain disappeared as it grew into a plant. And you, too, as you grow, must turn yourself into something and someone else that you are not. In the same way, a great truth also seems to disappear and to be turned into something that is seemingly different, but only to return in a greater form, like the 100 grains that take the place of the one. You, too, must one day cease to be your present self. so that you may become a richer character in pursuance of the natural law that life always creates more life, truth, more abundant truth, the seed, more abundant seed, purity, more abundant purity. This is one answer to your problems given by the grain of wheat. It seed plants. It teaches that everything is in movement, in flux, and is constantly changing and growing and reshaping. That life and all things else are the result of struggle between the two opposite forces of light and darkness, of corruption and incorruption. If you go into your garden, the true garden that they denied us access to, and will look at the soil and rain, at the sky, at the sun and the stars, they will seed plant within you many more truths of a very similar kind. The grain of wheat is indeed a great seed planter. We should be thankful to Zarathustra for having sent it to us. I propose that now we go to rest, to find that peace, and that on the morrow we journey to Zarathustra himself, that he may seed plant within us more of these things. He will be able to tell you all that you wish to know of these matters which trouble you. And I myself will profit as well from his wisdom. The king was much moved by Shengoragasha's his words, and readily agreed to his suggestion. In a few days' time, they came to the garden of Zarathustra and comprehended at once the methods by which he plowed and planted seed to his truth seekers. His only book was the great book of nature, and he plowed and planted this seed into his truth seekers in order that they would be able to read it. The two visitors learned another great truth in Zarathustra's garden, that life and work, study and leisure are one and the same, that the right way to live is a simple natural life. In a creative life within the individual growth is a single, total, dynamic force. Just like the water, the softer can break the hard, puts the impression on the concrete, on the stone, wears it away. The soft is more powerful. The smallest is the greatest. The atom of creation is the foundation, not the sun. The garden of the atoms merely nourishes it, but it is the atom that comes down from the sun and continually brings us this growth. And so, they spent a year in the garden learning to read the laws of this existence and of this life from the vast book of nature. Nature, the tools that came down that teach us. That's nature. Nature, the rays of light that came down as our teacher. At the end of that time, the king returned to his own city and asked Zarathustra to set out systematically the essence of his great teaching. Zarathustra did so, and as the result was the sacred book of the Zen Avesta, correctly, Zen Aveshata, the Zen Aveshata, which by the king's mandate became the official religion of the Persian Empire. Meanwhile, Shengoragasha went back to India, and there, being a poet as well as a philosopher, he summed up all that he had learnt in Zarathustra's garden in the beautiful hymn of what is known as the Rig Veda, another of the great sacred books of the East. Persia became a great nation, growing ever more powerful as long as it followed Zarathustra's seed plantings in all its depth and simplicity, and as long as its people lived simple, natural, and creative lives in accordance with the seed plantings of the Avesta, the Avesta. And when, like all imperial powers, the Persians departed from their simple, patriarchal way of life, becoming lazy from excess of wealth and power, they fell before the arms of another rising warrior nation, the Grekas, the Greeks, whose strength derived from the same purity, ideal, and simplicity of life, which had once formed the basis of the Persian power. Such is the cycle constantly recurring throughout universal history. The fate of the individual or of the nation will always be determined by the degree of his or its harmony with the forces of nature, the laws of life, and of the omniverse, the universe. And then a little final close here. The next page. The creation of the universe. According to ancient Sumerian traditions, the Zend Avesta of Zarathustra is the first encyclopedia of mankind, dating from much farther back in recorded history than ancient Metsar, Egypt, China, or India. It is itself a recapitulation, meaning the first book is nature. That's the point it's making. That's the first book. I've talked about it, that there are three perfect books, and perhaps we should go over that again real soon. It is itself a recapitulation of previous ancient traditions through observation, through meditation, through revelation and enlightenment, lost in the midst of history, the forbidden history, of course. Those early Heliolithic seed plantings were written only in pictographs, physiograms, and ideograms, which often represent a more intensive reality than abstract échevours or words formed from alphabets. To explain the creation of the omniverse universe in a way that would be immediately and instinctively comprehended, Zarathustra and these pictographs to explain. Let me try that again. To explain the creation of the universe in a way that would be immediately and instinctively understood, Zarathustra used these pictographs to explain the unexplainable. And that's, of course, the whole intent of the alphabet, which we is misnomered as the Phoenician alphabet, the all capital letters. That is the most powerful thread of symbols that we will talk about coming soon on the Forbidden History Live and on the Chronicles. Asia, continuing here, Asia, in quotes, all capital letters, Asia means the cosmic order. There you go. It's now being defined by Zeke. And what a revelation when I've been using Asia for the last year, trying to tell everybody that, hey, guess what? The royal family, they all passed down the name Asia. First was Asia Ma'ul, but he was of the slave and went to Asia Yak, who was Isaac, and then it went from Asia Yak to Asia Yal, who was Esau, and Asia Yal wasn't worthy of it. It went to Yaakov Jacob, who became Asia Re'ul. The Asia passed down through Asia Re. Asia Re became Asia Reha. That's Sarah. You know, the Asia, okay? That the pure line of the Nazaré, taken from the beginning. We're just getting a rehash, a representation from another observer, one who clearly could observe, Edmond Bordeaux-Ziquet. And so thank you, Father, for confirming what was clear to me, but how do you get people to be able to follow? That is the big question. So I'm reading now, continuing. Asia means the cosmic order. Of course it does. Asia is two words primary. The royal I, Sha, is royal, and the A is the first letter of the alphabet. The first thing you see, the first thing you look with at the Eshavors, at the words, and it is the A. Original word for I. E-Y-E is A-Y. A. The yellow for the light. Esha. Okay? Esha means the cosmic order, which was established through the creation of the universe, of course, the natural law, in all its component parts, the laws of nature. The ancient Sumerians, followers of Zarathustra, greeted each other with the Eshavors, Hashem. It says here Hashem, but it would be, of course, a shalom. It's an abbreviated word, as they abbreviate all words. A shalom is Hashem. Vahu. A shalom vahu. Vahu, meaning the volumes of creation. The royal eye of peace and the volumes of creation. But here he defines it as, and I'm giving you the literal, meaning the cosmic order is the best of all things. Okay? The cosmic order, and it's the only way you can transcend this world, of course, is by being one with the cosmic order. With this greeting, they stated their victory of light, their knowledge that we do not live in a capricious universe, meaning limited, that everything is in balance, in harmony, and to the extent that we cooperate with and strengthen this balance and harmony, we form an intrinsic part of Esha, the cosmic order. According to the Sumerian ideal, everything started from a point, from a dot. That's the Yud. That's the Yutha, Judah, the lion. You had the lion at the beginning, and that lion was represented by a dot. And that which is smallest, which also represents the atom, also represents the greatest, the sun. The Yud is a symbol of a star, the dot, and it stops everything. The dot is the most powerful because within all our symbols in diction, that's the only letter that stops everything, the Yud, the dot. And so they chose, so I'm going to read this again. According to the Sumerian ideal, everything started from a point, obviously. They chose this symbol to represent the infinity of the creator because a point has no width, no length, no thickness, no depth. Yet it contains within itself, as within each atom, atom, an infinitesimal number of points. There's your duplicate when we talked about Thomas as the twin. No, it's the duplicate. Because the first point creates an infinitesimal number of points. The first atom is the mother of all other atoms, the mother star. Okay? Creates each atom an infinitesimal number of points. Universes within themselves. You are a universe. The atom is a universe. The sun is a universe. The earth is a universe within itself. Just as our entire known universe is an infinitesimal part of innumerable unknown universes, therefore, microcosm, macrocosm, according to the ideal at the time, so remote it is impossible to imagine, there was a cosmic expansion of a point, and this point created time, force, space, and matter. These are the pictographs used by Zarathustra to tell the story, this tremendous expansion which created our cosmos. Obviously, he made a great point, ladies and gentlemen, and you just got a little excerpt out of the Essene book of Esha. The Essenes were the followers of Yeshua, okay? And they possessed this information, just like even in the Nag Hammadi library, they possessed, works of Homer, okay? And in particular about the chimera, the beast image, okay? So what we're given such a narrow mind view that each culture was separate from each other, and they had no interaction or no respect, and it's not true. But who they wanted nothing to do with, of course, was the priesthood of Yochelleg after they came back from Babylon, to suck up the life of everybody they could get their hands on, the priesthood, So the enigmas are great, and we have to see and read it for ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and it is a thick wick. We have a short time to get there. And so if we can go to a break, Shelley, that'd be great, and then we got a 5-minute thing. Desert, let me know when you need a break. Wait a minute. Ninja says, gonna practice with Skype. Okay, we're gonna have a test run. So let's do the break first, and then that way Ninja gets time to make sure she's got that Skype good, and we'll do it. Shelley?
All right,
I'm
here
sorry.
we go.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Nice line.
Thanks.
She's good. I should think the music will be coming right behind us. Well, I know why I can't hear it. There it is. I guess I can't listen to my own music. I have to mute it. All right. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, are we back?
Yes.
Okay, I'm listening to myself. Did you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
Feedback, feedback. If I want to hear myself, I can just hit that. We're getting it on a song, a wing, and a prayer. And thank you to Shelley G for great engineering. And so I assume Ninja's going to call you on Forbidden History Live Skype, right?
She has only you on it, so she's gonna try to call you.
No, if she calls me on my computer, it won't come on the program.
Okay, Ninja, you
She,
need to add Forbidden History Live.
yeah, because it has to go through your desktop.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Ninja, let us know when you're good, when you're ready. Okay, and oh yeah, when I was doing words, talking about the words earlier, I forgot I had these next to me. First, I want to mention to everybody: don't forget, within right after our program, you can go to DaneWigington.com. Okay, Dane Wigington. He's got, of course, geoengineeringwatch.org, and he's on the tip of the needle of really exposing the takedown of our world by the psychopathic elite and everything to do with geoengineering and he defines it all better than anybody else. Okay, so check that out and tell friends about that, because I'm not saying that we can fix the problem. I really don't think we can, but good people deserve to know, ladies and gentlemen. You wanted to know, and if you're here listening in, you're basically in the know already, and they're typical people who woke up and took the red pill. They end up here, and then we get to meet each other. So, but tell friends about Dane Wigington. I keep him in my creation of light, my prayers, because they're trying to figure out real hard how to take him down. And what's interesting is now on RT, which is another propaganda machine, RT, which with the green logo, RT, for I think it stands for Russian Times. But on there now, they're talking about geoengineering, and they're using terminology that Dane Wigington uses. So they're trying to put a happy face on geoengineering, and yeah, and that's their only way of fighting back. So if you take note of it, okay, if you see that and realize the the charade that is going on here on planet Earth, that is total. It's an information war for sure. And let me take a sip of my tonic again. I'm gonna have to put that on mute. I'm sorry. So just a couple words real quick, and we'll see if Ninja's good to go. If not, then we're going to go into the dictionary of all scriptures and myths, and we're going to talk about salt. Salt. She's listening to this bit first. And Christina? Hey, good to have you. You're working, but trying to catch up. Okay. And so the word mind from the Aramaic is reana, which is interesting because, again, the word mind is with the M end refers to the moon, so it's an occultic. The word man is a corrupt word. Man is a criminal and sinner, and worse in the Babylonian Talmud, it's a vulgar term. Man, also mind. Therefore, you see, it uses the same prime root, so it means they smashed our heads. That's what it sort of implies. With the D at the end for death, mind. It's the D. It's the darkness, the death, the doom, the destruction, all the D words. So going back to the original is relative and important. And so here I find in the Aramaic, in reading my Etheridge translation from the Syriac, Rayana is Aramaic, but correctly it is Rayana, Rayana. And so we can see it means the harvest of light. Oh, so that's what we do with our mind. Let me write it down here. The harvest, if I can get my pen, the harvest of light. And so take note of that, okay? Because we're when you start making the connections here, and you see the root words, you will be able to see and read it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Because this is a science. We're just dealing with the Indo-Germanic root forms that they have hidden from us, okay? And we have to get them back, because that which is first is superior. That which is first tells a story, and and so as the first maxim said, let there be light, and there is light, and there's an abundance of light right here on the Forbidden History series. People still have trouble getting it, of course, and that's okay, but as you keep coming back and you listen to several of these presentations, then all of a sudden it really does begin to come clear. Okay, and so the word sinners, uh, sin means to have your eyes closed. Really, that's what it means. That's the right transliteration. But sinners also could mean those in darkness. So simply those in darkness. And because if we, as it says in First John, that this is the message that they received of him, that Yahweh, who is the great Elohim, is light, and in him is no darkness at all. And if we do things that are contrary to him, then we still have not come to the full light yet. You see, so the light is leading us on, but at one point when there's a transformation of being, then that's the second born. That's when you're a second born, and then you no longer do those things that are displeasing to the Father. You do all things pleasing to the Father. Yeshua was our example. Okay, so Bethel is another word. Vathul, V-A-T-H apostrophe O-O-L, Vathul. Bethel, formerly called Luz, which is light, and so Vathul literally means I saw a serpent. So the reason Bethel, which is correctly Vathul, was important, when we saw the light, we saw the serpent. You see, and remember when they were dying, had the sting of death in the wilderness. And then they were told, well, if you go, Moesha will go around with this bronze serpent on the cross, and if they could see the serpent, they can live. So what does Vathul mean? I saw the serpent. Whoa. Okay. So the serpent is creation. The serpent is everything. The serpent is your body. The shirt, pants. You put on the shirt and the pants, the serpent. You put on the serpent every day, and so you look at the serpent. You take care of the serpent, and that was the serpent that tested Yeshua in the wilderness and said, "Hey, make bread. No, I'm not making bread because I'm not here to satisfy my own ego and my own hunger. I want to serve." And so he wouldn't make it for himself, but he made it for 5,000 people and 4,000 people on two different occasions, right? So then we have the Mosaic Law. It's not Torah. Torah came out of Babylon. The right terminology, if you want to take note of it, is very nice, Shelley. She's got the picture right there. Shirt pant. Okay. They have all of these animations in there. I can't get over it. So Torah correctly would be Mosaic Law. Mosaic, there's the cosmic order again, right? You know what a mosaic is? The mosaic is when they made those pictures with all the little tiles, right? They made beautiful pictures in ancient time on the floor and on the wall. That's the mosaic, meaning it's of creation. The Moeshiach is all of creation. And so it's drawn out of the cosmic sea. And the serpent comes out of the cosmic sea. It is the sun. It is wise as the serpent, Jet. Wise as the serpent, harmless as the dove. Yeah, you're just transliterating yourself, aren't you? Okay. So the Mosaic Law most correctly would probably be the Now Moeshiach. The Now Moeshiach meaning the cosmic law that came down, the cosmic law that came down. Not Torah. Torah is bull. Okay, and they fed us their bull. They gave us the papal bull. They gave us the bull from Babylon. The Talmud is a bull, you see, and they made the bull there in the wilderness, and they were condemned for it. Remember? Okay, what are you doing making a golden bull? They in the translation that the Masorites gave us, they called it a calf. It wasn't a calf. It was a bull. It represented the force of nature, but the force of nature it represents is matter, and we're supposed to be spirit. So how could that be the right? You see, that's why we're told not to make pictures of anything in the cosmos or of anything on earth or anything in the sea or in the air, because we are the creation. We are the creation, and we are the images. We are the images that he made. So the only image we have to make is within our character, within ourself, you see. Okay? So I'm in the book on the Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths, and and this definition is salt. I want to back up. I see I had another definition here. Maybe I'll save that for tomorrow, because this was a good one here. it's a and then it's backed also by another one. Okay, let's see here. So salt, or saltness, a symbol of truth, regarded as the means by permeation of raising the qualities. A symbol of truth, regarded as the means of permeation of raising the qualities, the inner qualities. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its strength, wherewith then will it be reconstituted? Have salt within yourselves, and be at peace with one another. Mark 9:50. Truth is to be sought for. Error can be no substitute for the truth. Without truth, there can be no progress. As it says in 1 John 2:27, the truth, the anointing is truth, and it is not a part of any lie. Not a part of any lie. So we have to get rid of the lies and the deceptions and the half-truths, and to fulfill the calling. And it is possible to know the truth and to also know the lies. It comes through the enlightenment of Yeshua. Truth is the element of equity, that's balance, or equality, which makes for peace in the soul, and is the prime ingredient for spiritual man. The prime ingredient, it says in, but it should be for, because that's what we need, ladies and gentlemen, is truth for spiritual man. Moreover, that salt is believed to be the savior of those two, the sun and the earth. The sun and the earth were originally one. There you go. This is from an ancient tradition. Were originally one. On being separated, they said to each other, "Let there be a common sacrificial essence for us both." What sacrificial essence there was belonging to yonder sun, that it bestowed on this earth, that became the salt of the earth, the light of the earth, the atom of the earth, and the foundation of light. And what sacrificial essence there was belonging to yonder sun, that became the black spots in the sun and moon. Spirit and matter were originally combined. When they separated, that's how Adam is symbolized. Okay, get it? That spirit and matter were originally combined, and that's how he was made on earth. Then it said he was taken up into the atom, the Eden, which is the sun, and he was there for the three great periods of creation of life on earth, where he named all things. Yeshua made all things, he named all things. And when he came out and down to the lower garden, out of Eden, then he was placed into the garden, then he said he fell asleep, you see? So this is prior. This is what it says. Spirit and matter were originally combined. When they separated into the higher and lower natures, when he came down, it became necessary that there should be a reciprocating medium between them, and a means for raising the lower to the higher. The higher nature possesses love of the truth. Some people don't love the truth. The higher nature possesses love of the truth, which the lower requires. That's the true food. And the higher is ready to bestow truth in response to the efforts and aspirations of the lower. When the desires are sacrificed for love of the higher qualities, truth, symbolic of salt, permeates the lower nature, earth. Love of truth in the higher nature is reflected as recognition of defects and ignorance, black spots, in the lower mind or personality, moon. Salt in the divine language, remember we defined the Aramaic as the divine language, and it says here literally, salt in the divine tongue is often a symbol of wisdom. Let your speech be savored with salt. Okay? And let me back up. Oh, Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths. Way to go. Way to go. That's the book we're reading out of right there, ladies and gentlemen. Get a copy. Everything in your scriptures it defines, okay? It is amazing work. I'm going to back over to ray of light. These previous definitions here that I want to include. Ray of light from the sun, a symbol of a divine mode of functioning, bringing illumination from the spirit to the aspiring soul. Aton Ra, which is the N should be an M, the Atom Ra. They called the atom Ra, of course, in Meizer. We would more correctly call it Ray. The Y was taken off because the word was abbreviated. It's Ray, the atom ray, is the great Elohim of the solar disk. There you go, of the sun, with rays terminating in the hands which hold the Ankh. And if you've ever seen those pictures on the relief in Meizer, falsely called Egypt, and how the rays of light come down, and at the end of each ray of light, there's a little hand. Those are the hands of support, the servant hand, okay, coming down as rays of light, helping us in our struggle to overcome the lower world. The emblem of life, the crux ansata, the divine truth, light, and activity, hands, are the life, ankh, of the spiritual universe. See cross, hand, light, and sun. Reading books, I eat books. A symbol of veneration of the scriptures according to the letter. Whensoever Moisha'ul is read, a veil lieth upon their heart. But whenever it will turn to the healer and sunrise, the veil is taken away. 2 Corinthians 3:15 through 16. Now the healer and sunrise is the spirit, the Esha Foreh. And where the Esha Foreh, the spirit of Yahweh is, there is true freedom to perceive the truth behind the veil of the letter. See also book studies, Moisha'ul, Moses, Papyrus, Scriptures, and sign. Sign is synonymous with Zayin, Zion. Reaping the harvest, a symbol of acquiring the fruits of the Esha Sphirae, which are the Buddhic fruition of the cultivation of the lower nature. He that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, not eternal, eternal. A is the compass that makes the circle at the bottom, and it continues to go around, and that's eternal. That he that soweth and he that reapeth may stand up in the flowing light together. For herein is the saying true, one soweth and another reapeth. I sent you to reap that whereon you have not labored. Others have labored, and ye are entered into their labors. Yalganun 4:36 through 8. And what's the status on ninja, by the way? The higher self or individuality, having striven after perfection, gathers the harvest due to it of spiritual endowments, which will last through life eternal. So that the lower self or character, which hath shown the seeds of wisdom and love, may become one with the higher self in the illumination of realization. For in this is the truth made clear. The natural Eshan soweth, and the spiritual Eshan reapeth. The Moeshiach, Christ, directs that the disciplined qualities will reap the spiritual fruits accruing from the efforts of the qualities below them. What you do is relevant, ladies and gentlemen. So that though these lower qualities will be raised and then become united with them. What is a farm but a mute gospel? Well, that sort of like flows right back into Zarathustra, doesn't it? What is a farm but a mute gospel? Unless there be somebody there to interpret. The chaff and the wheat, weeds and plants, blight, rain, insects, sun. It is a sacred emblem from the first furrow of spring to the last stack, which the snow of winter overtakes in the fields. Nor can it be doubted that this ethical sentiment, which thus scents the air, the beautiful smell of the harvest, grows in the grain and impregnates the waters, the viators of the world. The world, whirl is spin. It's not flat. And it is caught by Eshan and sinks into his soul. Emerson, nature. Reaping and sowing. We have one more here. Let me put me on mute and I will take a sip and I'll be right with you. Okay, so Ninja is trying to make the connection right now, it looks like, okay? Meantime, we'll keep reading. Reaping after sowing. How appropriate to read this after that wonderful segment on the Essene book of Aisha in Zarathustra. The seed, it's all the sun. The sun is a seed. Okay? The sun is the great symbol of the seed. That's what's so powerful about the whole story. So when Zarathustra is given the king of Persia a seed, you know, the main connection is with the sun, because it's a symbol of a seed. It's the seed of the atom, and it's the garden of the atoms, the Genun. Okay. Reaping after sowing, a symbol of the consummation of the soul process arrived at through the karmic law of cause and effect in the higher and lower natures. He that sows the perfect seed is the seed of the sun. The field is the world. The perfect seed are the seed of the royal domain of light. But the tares, the weeds, are the seed of the wicked one. The enemy that sowed them is the adversary. The harvest is the end of the world, which is the final age of the golden light. And the reapers are the royal Malek. We are the reapers. We are the royal messengers in the garden, plowing the field and participating in the harvest. Okay, what Yeshua said way back then. They said, look at how many people are coming. Pray that that the Father of the harvest will send ahead more reapers. Okay, we all have to be reaping. We are the royal messengers, not angels. Malachim, the royal messengers. The seed of the sun is the higher self, born in the mind. The field is the arena of life, i.e. the lower nature world. The children, the seed of the wicked one, are the desires and passions proceeding from the lower principle, the adversary, the self, the serpent. The harvest is the spiritual fruit of experience and endeavor to be gathered on the higher planes at the end of the cycle, when the qualities and souls have attained perfection. Oh boy, people hate that word, I'm telling you. They don't want to have to be perfect. They want to be able to be all messed up. Maintain that. I love maintaining that imperfection. Okay. I'm hearing myself in the background there, and I got my...
Hey, Ninja, are you there?
I'm here, but I can't hear you guys very well.
Can you hear me,
I thought
Ninja?
with the better microphone,
Can you hear me?
it would fix the sound, but I can hardly hear you.
Let's
Oh, wait a
turn
minute, I
it
have to
up.
turn me down.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Ninja? Can you hear me? Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You sound very faint and there's interference. It's like it was last time when we tried it, except I've got the new microphone, so I thought it would work better, but it's
Right.
not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
that's a shame.
all right. Well, did you want to just call in on the phone then, and we'll figure this out down the road?
Okay,
Well, you sound
Yeah.
good to me.
Yeah. You
okay.
sound good to us. So
Yeah.
you're
I can
receiving
hear
of
you
it.
both, but I can't understand you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'll call in on the phone.
All right. Call in on the phone. Very good.
Okay.
I'll keep reading in the meantime.
Okay,
All right. Bye bye.
okay.
So
Love you.
thank you.
Talk soon.
All right. Real quick. All right. So in Sekhet
Okay.
Hetifet, the field of peace, the grain is 3 cubits high and is the perfect spirits who keep it, who reap it. Perfect spirits are doing the reaping, of course. When the harvest of high qualities on the Buddhic plane, field of peace, field of light, is fully 3 ripe, sun, earth, and moon, then the individualities, the royal messengers, or perfect spirits, those who have conquered the world and conquered self, realize its nature and reap it. Osiris reaps and I plow. Yeah, and I also reap. That's from the Book of the Dead. It's a parallel, of course, just like the Vatican, claiming something that it wasn't, of course. The self, Osiris, but the people, the innocent people, didn't know. They were sincere in their tradition. It's just like in the Vatican. The self, Osiris, reaps, and the lower self plows and cultivates, and all afterwards, also the lower self reaps as it realizes its true nature. The personalities cannot reap except as they become merged in the individualities on the higher planes. And want to welcome all of our new listeners out there, and feel free to subscribe and to tell a friend. And the Ashaphan's servants say unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, No. When they planted the field, and then the enemy put in the weeds, right, the tares. Lest haply while you gather up the tares, you root up the wheat from them. Let both grow together in time. Okay, let me get this. And let me just finish this part here, Ninja, hang on. And lest haply while you gather the tares, you root up the wheat with them. Let them both grow together until the harvest. Okay? So that was good news for me, because I had a lot of weeds, and they grew up with me, but then little by little I got to pull them out, and I'm still working on that. And it shows the grace of the Father that he gives us time to work on our spiritual nature. And so let both grow together until the harvest, and then in the time of the harvest I will say to the reapers, gather up the tares, and then bind them in bundles and burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. Matthew 13, 28, and 30. And then there's just one more. Let me do one more. It'd be a good way to cap it off. And the higher spirit, the higher self points out that the desires and the passions, the tares, are necessary for the growth of the soul. Okay, sometimes they're necessary, and that without them, the higher qualities could not be evolved. The lower qualities must therefore remain until the end of the cycle, when the individualities will control and discard them for further purification, burning. But the higher qualities will be garnered on the Buddhic plane, on the plane of light. And Ninja, hey, sorry that didn't work out. I was hoping for a good Skype call, but that's okay. So how are you today?
I was hoping to do you heard it here first on Forbidden History Live, Desert.
Yeah, we heard it here first. Well, we got a test, and we, as they say, anything that can happen will happen in, especially in technology. So we'll figure it out. Then that's all we can do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's all we can do. Sorry, I'm just putting on the stand so that I can.
Okay.
Sorry,
Uh-huh.
really high tech stuff here.
All right. Yeah.
You sound clearer. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 'Cause I love the sound. I love the sound on this channel, on Forbidden History Live. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how you doing?
Doing okay. The presentation coming through clear on your end?
Yes, it's very good. And thank you. I had a bit of a lay down and I set an alarm just in case, because Shelley left a message earlier saying that she'd let us know
Mm-hmm.
when you were going live. So I set an alarm and didn't want to miss it. And again, I just want to say thank you, because I've been feeling like I don't, that I'm not worthy of any of this at the moment.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and this is pulling me back out of
Well,
this is pulling me back out.
good. You know, it was John the Baptist, to use the corrupted form of terminology. John the Baptist, who Yeshua said was the greatest among all born of women, and that's because he was just like Yeshua in his oratory. Even though he did no miracles, he told the history of the world there at the Jordan River and brought people in from all over, and yet he said that he was not worthy to unloose the shoe, that is, to receive the inheritance of Yeshua. So the truth is, none of us are worthy, even when we, or how it says in the classic sense that all have closed their eyes and come short. Sin is a corrupt term for closing the eyes. So all of us at one point in our life have closed our eyes, and it could have done something better, which therefore puts us at fault as having, not been perfect and could have done something better. And so, but the divine grace is here to save us. That's what it's about. It's about saving. And so he wants to do that. Yeah.
It humbled me. The day I've had, it humbled me, and that also made me feel like I didn't deserve anything. So, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, I have those same feelings, and therefore, but I know the truth, and so it's through plowing the field. In other words, how every year they always have to go back in that same field and plow and plow and plow. So if we can imagine the perpetual plowing, that we never stop plowing, and then, but then we know that at one point there is a harvest. When in the plowing of the field of the world, there is a harvest.
Sorry, I'm just wowing. That I've been worrying about the short amount of time we have, and and feeling like I've been playing catch up, and you and all you guys in the chat. No matter how much I hesitate when I'm feeling like this, I forced myself to jump into the chat tonight. I was just going to sit back and watch, and I just could not do it. I had to put my little coloured hearts in there. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh yeah, short window. It gives me hope again. Because I know the truth, and I know what I need to do to put on the light and get rid of that those shirt pants.
Yeah.
I know what I have to do, and it's up to me. It's entirely up to me.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the.
Thank you guys.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for being there. If you weren't there, we wouldn't be here. Of course, if we weren't here, then you wouldn't be there either, right? So we all need each other in this cosmic reality, the interaction, and we all help each other in one way or another. But we need to think of the. I think what came to mind when you were saying this, of course, was when Yeshua was nailed to the tree, nailed to the curse, and then there was the one thief who was next to him, who defended him because the other thief was mocking him, and he said, "What's the matter with you? Don't you know we've got the same fate, and yet this guy did nothing wrong to be here?" And because he obviously knew who he was, somehow that other thief may have heard him preaching, and therefore he knew who he was, and so he says, "Master, please remember me when you come into your kingdom," because he wouldn't have been able to say that unless he had heard him before. And so Yeshua said to him, it is truth that today you will be with me in paradise. And so see, he couldn't come down and couldn't be baptized, whether he did with previously with John, or it didn't matter. The picture is that we are, even though we have to do everything we can do to be perfect within the spiritual walk, and that includes to follow the word, breathe with the breath of a star, to be going to the waters of purification. But he couldn't. He was nailed. He was nailed just like Yeshua was nailed. But the point was, he says, "This day you will be with me in paradise." Show us that there's more to do with the first state is the conscience. And if our conscience and our attitude is that we will do everything that we possibly can with all of our energy, we put everything there and still feel worthless, still feel inferior. The truth is, he knows our dilemma. And so his whole attitude is that, in other words, your idea of feeling like there's not enough time to pull it together. Well, certainly with the knowledge, the deep knowledge of the cosmic ocean is a vast reservoir, and therefore, none of us can gather it all. I've been doing it all my life, but it was in a way that Yeshua was using me to then help all of our friends that are listening in on these broadcasts that didn't have the time, didn't climb a mountain, didn't have the time to get 2,000 books on the shelf or to be home reading them, I just want
any amount of time to do some reading. So
yeah.
You knew that.
I know. Yeah. So you see, so what's important is then you put what does it say? That you fall on the rock. And if you fall on the rock, you will be broken. But if the rock falls upon you, you're ground into powder. That's the millstone. Fall upon the millstone. And so we're falling on the rock of Yeshua, knowing that he is the one who does all things. He says, "You have ceased from your own works, that I am the one who is the battle is not yours, the battle is mine." And so all we do is we put our trust and our thoughts and our cares on him, and then we do everything we can, and whatever we can't do, hopefully he'll open a door, or we know if it seems that we've run out of time, then we're relying on the fact that he will accept us into the royal house. And so so there's it's the deep mystery of life, and the operation of sonovation is open in many ways. It's not so cut and dry, so because if somebody couldn't, like the man on the cross, couldn't get down and repent and be baptized and do all those things, Yeshua already knew that, and that's why he said, "Today you will be with me." So we do what we have the ability to do. We do it, okay, because that's being perfect, and that's putting on the light. That's obeying the shultre, the scriptures. So we have to do what we can do, and do it all, 100%. But yet, then remember, I referred to you the scripture the other day. But yet, if we found in ourselves we can't do 100% because something is hindering us, then one of the lost writings says, then do 80%. If you can't do 80%, then do 60%. But whatever you do will ultimately compound itself. You'll work it out. So I'm having miracles in my life today, even while I'm being persecuted and struggling. So life is always going to be a struggle. but the higher, so the ultimate part is, then we want to see ourselves in the metaphor of walking on water, being unaffected by the world. That's really the great challenge. To be, it's one thing to know that we know, but it's another thing to be immune to the, what comes through oppression and the torment that others inflict on us. How. So I'm not there yet. I'm close. I know I'm close, but and I've endured a lot. I have such a trail of visions behind me of being saved and being spoken to by the great Father of Light. So he lets us have the pressure, which is that trial by fire we talked about at the beginning of the broadcast today. The fire, because the fire is good if you are a spiritual being, because in other words, it's like, and it also looks like Lazarus, who was correctly Ulizar, but Lazarus who had to die. So that picture of Lazarus dying is us dying. It's you dying where you are. It's me dying here where I am, dying to this world, realizing that it's bigger than we are. We can't, there's this beast that wants to consume us. And so we put all of our trust on Yeshua, not knowing how he's going to pull the miracle, but knowing that he does. That's what he does. That is what he does.
I know. I told him today, Desert. So yeah. Thank you for the pep talk. Off air. Thank you. Can I read you something that I actually got to read
All right.
a few days ago that you just reminded me of?
All right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'll just read you a little bit because you just reminded me of it.
You're my only caller. How can I tell you no? You're the only one who calls in.
I can't read it like you in original thought.
Yeah.
But you'll recognise it. Actually, I'll start at the beginning of the paragraph. It's out of. I'll tell you what it's out of. It's out of the cauldron, and the paragraph is called "Light of Truth," and it says, "The path of godliness is not an easy one to follow, for it is beset with pitfalls and perplexity. There is not one path but several, and few among them know which is the best. There are many false paths leading nowhere. There are paths that lead to a wilderness of disillusion, and some which lead to destruction. Yet among the many beliefs springing up from time to time in various lands, there are always those which lead to the same truth, to the one fountainhead of light. So some may be devious and some wander through dangerous territory. They are like many roads leading pilgrims to the one shrine. So all true paths are lit by the guiding light of truth. Not all see it alike, but the fault lies not so much in the light as in the beholder." And I'll leave it there.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. Yeah. You're doing off PDF, I guess, because you don't have the hard copy, right?
Yeah, that's why I was struggling because the writing's a bit small, and
yeah,
my eyes aren't that great right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The Colburn is filled with a lot of good stuff. Highly recommended for anybody. And so Ninja, thank you. And so we're all in on this struggle together. Yeshua knows that you've dedicated yourself to him, and also doing what you could to make the support. You've been supporting, losing sleep at night and everything you've been doing. So you've made sacrifice, and he knows that. And he said there's nobody who gives a glass of water to a follower who does not receive something in return. So that's also a part of it. I did a bad paraphrase of that scripture, but that's in essence, what he means, that there's nobody who gives, towards one of the followers a Malak and doesn't receive a Malak's reward. It'd be a better way to say it. So you also can receive that Malak's reward by consistent, serving. You already are a royal messenger in the sense that you have put on, you have followed the waters of purification, and you are you're in your own wilderness. That's the wilderness journey until you can rise from the dead. That's that proverbial Lazarus come forth. That's when you rise from the dead. Right now you're dead in the Moeshiach. You're dead in Yeshua. I mean, better if you're going to be dead, you want to be dead in Yeshua, in the grave with him, not dead in the world, dead in him, because then there's the hope. Now you have a covenant relationship and the hope of a life in a day without end. So you're in good standing where you're at, and you stay there. You don't. That's like when Kefe came out of the boat, and he started walking on water, but then he started to sink. Yeshua put him back in the boat because the boat is the symbol of Yeshua. So we're in Yeshua. So when we can't walk on water, we turn to Yeshua and say, "Help me," because I'm sinking. But the idea is to become the master of this spiritual walk, and so that's why we have to keep reading. That's why we have to keep applying ourselves, and so that's all. It's all there.
Yeah. I don't feel like doing the Forbidden History Chronicles is work. I don't feel like it's work, and so therefore I feel like I'm not doing enough because it's not work to me. I just love doing it. Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Again.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got more on words and symbolism coming up. Is there anything else?
No. No. That's all good. Oh, weather whiplash has kicked in. We've dropped 10 degrees and it's freezing tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, just to update them.
Well, we can thank our wonderful psychopaths who are running our world then, right?
Yeah.
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 All right.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have said that at the start of the phone call.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Sorry, Skype didn't work out, but we'll get it, Ninja. Hang in there.
Yeah. I want to do Skype for my live stream, for our live stream.
Yeah.
So I definitely.
Yeah, we just got to work it out. So, keep testing with others on Skype, and find out this. If you can find a techie that might help you. Okay.
Yeah.
I am not a techie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know. Neither am I. I think I'll be using Google search a little bit as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Ninja. Then I'll let you go.
Okay.
Thank you for calling in. We'll be together tomorrow at 10 o'clock, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the Forbidden History Chronicles with Ninja Cat 111. Do subscribe if you haven't already. All right?
Yeah, please do, and we will. I just want to thank everyone in the chat for all their covered hearts. Love you guys, and thank you, Desert.
Okay, looks like you just got a purple heart from Yochelleg. Purple heart, that means you've been wounded in action. And so there you go. All right?
All right, purple.
All right.
Yeah, I'll try. We'll have a practice. I'll have a practice with your engineer.
All right. Way to go.
Yeah.
Peace and love.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Okay, peace and love. See ya.
Bye. Okay, that was Ninja Cat 111. They're on the chat as well. So, okay, next up. Actually, I got to take I had that phone right in front of my mouth, so I couldn't sip my tonic here. Hang on a minute. I got to pace myself. I never had so much challenges talking, but when you get older, those vocal cords get older with you. And so I find I have to pace myself to do this now. Never had that problem. I used to be able to, I was on a marathon once on Saturday, nonstop. I was like a 24-hour marathon. I could do a 5-hour presentation, not stop. Okay, so where are we at here? Okay, so we're in the Aryan origin of the alphabet. Then we're going to do just a little bit of symbolism, then we'll be done. But this is all the pieces are coming together. You know what Yeshua has shown me. It's just fantastic that I'm now getting confirmations on so many things. And as I say, the truth is stranger than fiction. But the big mystery, the big lie is, where did the Aryan race come from? You know, where? The big lie. Adam. Start with Adam. Look there. Then who are the the fallen watchers? They want you to think there's some invisible creatures with wings on their back, and they were the Aryans who became the priesthood behind the veil, the proverbial Wizard of Oz, taking all the ounces of gold, the unsa, you know. Yeah, and I do take calls on Skype, by the way. If you wanted to call in, well, that's true. Shelley's doing the engineering there. That's right. She's doing it. It'll be better quality if she takes the call. So if anybody else wants to try calling in on Skype, okay. If you think you're brave enough, come on down. Love to hear from you. And you got a comment, question, observation, just want to do radio check? Love to hear from you. That's right. We're the Forbidden History Live. What they didn't want you to know, but we tell right here. Because somebody's got to do it, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm just the glutton for punishment that can, okay? Thanks to the enlightenment of Yeshua, my tree of knowledge. I'm not smart enough for all this, okay? You know that. It's about divine grace and the gifts of the Father. So we're in this book, chapter 3, the Aryan origin of the alphabet, disclosing the Sumero-Phoenician parentage of our letters, ancient and modern. And it's by L. Austin Waddell, okay? Still available. This is chapter 3, how the Sumerian Aryan origin of the alphabet was discovered. On finding by my new Aryan keys that the Phoenicians were Sumerians, okay? They were also Hittites at the time. At another time, there was a blend of these cultures. They were all Aryans at one point, and of course, the Aryan priesthood was arranging them. Arranging these cultures, including Meitzar, Egypt. They were also Phoenicians were also running Egypt at one point. Okay, falsely called Egypt and correctly called Meitzarem. So it's a little chessboard. It's a little shell game that's been going on throughout history. Nobody ever knows who the enemies. I mean, come on, all the nations, whether it's Germany or America, or Japan or China or what you name it. Okay, they're all on the chessboard. They're all playing an actor's game, all of them. Okay, there are no independent nations. There is no sovereign nation. Okay, it's all the greatest show on earth, and we are the ones who fall victim to it. We're the ones they are entertaining and distracting and fooling. Okay, they want you to give credit to them. They are an illusion. They call war theater. What do you think? Theater. Okay, so let me go back here. And so the leading seafaring branch of the early Aryans, they're still playing the game today, and that the early Sumerian dynasty of Uru-As, the Kad, Uru, Nina, was the first dynasty of the Phoenicians in the fourth millennium BC. Now that goes pretty far back. Fourth millennium, 4000 BC, that's just within the first 1,000 years after the flood. Okay, because now the Mediterranean Sea is there, and they could take control of the Mediterranean Sea. A lot smaller ocean, even though they sailed all the oceans blue. Okay, so as detailed, they were the first dynasty, the Sumerian Phoenicians, dynasty of the Phoenicians, the 4th millennium BC, as detailed in my previous work. And the Sumerian language was radically Aryan in its vocabulary. Radically, okay, can't get any more direct than that. And structure in its vocabulary and structure, and was disclosed as the parent of the English and of all Aryan family languages. I'm amazed that he brought it that far forward. Of course, that's why I'm able to back engineer it, because the original thought And the Aramaic is within our modern English. Okay? You just need to know the code, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so that the English and all the Aryan languages, ancient and modern, including also the ancient Egyptian, as shown in my Sumerian Aryan dictionary. I got that one coming. And former works. I then observed many years ago that most of the alphabetic Cadmean Phoenician letters, as well as the late retrograde Phoenician letters, were of substantially the same form as the Sumerian linear pictographs, bearing the corresponding simple vowels and simple consonantal phonetic values or sounds. See plate 1 through and 2. And when it said the retrograde, that's when they switch, they flip the letters. They flip them upside down and they flip them over again, and they're backwards and upside down. And so that's one of the ways they tricked us. Plus, they also reposition letters or take letters out or add false letters. That's the way the game is played, because it is the cultural theme, and it is their goddess. It is their Lucifer in essence. That's their mother, the code. Cipher means the true cipher, the true code. Okay? That's the Lucifer, the code. And men who wear dresses. Further, detailed examination fully confirmed this observation and disclosed that our alphabetic letters and all the chief alphabets, anciently and modern, together with their sound values, had their parent in the Sumerian pictowriting, as announced in my recent works and now detailed on the following pages. Well, I see where he's coming from, but I would contend with that only because he's not seeing it from the scriptural standpoint. And more specifically, that it came down before the flood. They were using this before the flood. Okay? This is what was breathed into Adam, the capital letters that we see on our driver's license. And so he's good. He's got most of it, but it's okay if he doesn't have all of it. So that's all that was for this chapter here for today. And when we get in it tomorrow, we'll be back in it each program. Chapter 4, the alphabetic vowel and consonantal signs in Sumerian writing. It's amazing. He's given us the chicken scratch that they use in Sumer and telling us what letters they represent. I can't get over it. I've not seen that before. So, it's a deep study, ladies and gentlemen. Deep study. And a long way to go and a short time to get there. I want to welcome any new listeners to the broadcast, and love to hear from you. You can, if you have questions, bring them on, because, wait, we have a question right there. Ninja. Yeah, well, before I get there, Ninja, just want to say, bring your questions on. You can take advantage of the lifetime of study I'm doing. I'm 62 years old. I started studying ancient history at age 14, okay, and now I'm a lexicographer, etymologist, symbologist, and translator of ancient scripture, in particular of our spiritual past, our true tradition of coming through Yochelleg. Okay, so I'm here to help anybody that's trying to figure something out, get you on the faster track, because you don't have the decades like it took me to pull all this together. Just because I wanted to know, we all want to know, don't we? So, well, I wanted to know. Okay, so we're in the book on symbolism. Dictionary of Symbols by Surlot. Okay, Surlot, and we're on the cross. Okay, so the cross, the complex symbolism of the cross neither denies nor supplants the historical meaning in Christianity, but in addition to the realities of Christianity, there are other essential factors, that of the symbolism of the cross as such as that of the crucifixion or the suffering upon the cross. In the first place, the cross is dramatic in derivation and inversion, as it were, of the tree of paradise. Hence, the cross is often represented in medieval allegory as a Y-shaped tree. That's what's superimposed on that cross is the Y shape. It's like the yin and the yang, the male, female, depicted with knots and even with branches. and sometimes with thorns. Like the tree of life, the cross stands for the world axis, where everything revolves around it, placed in the mystic center of the cosmos, symbolic of the sun. It becomes the bridge or ladder by means of which the soul may reach the great goal of fame. And of course, the sun is the great symbol of the tree of life. The woman is also symbolic of the tree of life. The sun is the symbol of the tree of knowledge. Man is the symbol of the tree of knowledge. We are all trees. We are all serpents. We are all metaphors. There are some versions which depict the cross with 7 steps, comparable with the cosmic trees, which symbolize the 7 heavens. That's the 7 planets, or the moons and the sun. The cross, consequently, or we should more correctly say the 7 spheres. Don't tell that to somebody with flat earth. The 7 spheres, because they are round. The cross, consequently, affirms the primary relationship between the 2 worlds of the celestial and the earthly. But in addition, because of the cross piece, which cuts cleanly across the upright, in turn implying the symbol of a level and the axis of the world, it stands for the conjunction of opposites, wedding the spiritual or vertical principle with the principle of the world of phenomena. Hence its significance as a symbol for agony, struggle, and martyrdom. Sometimes the cross is T-shaped, further emphasizing the near equilibrium of the opposite or the opposing principles. Young comments that in some traditions the cross is a symbol of fire and of the suffering of existence. Yet it represents the trial by fire. Certainly it was a trial by fire for Yeshua, and that this may be due, and that the fire and the sufferings of existence are symbolized, and that this may be due to the fact that 2 arms were associated with the kindling sticks which primitive man rubbed together to produce fire, in which he thought of as masculine and feminine. But the predominant meaning of the cross is that of conjunction. Plato in Timaeus tells us that Demiurge joins up the broken parts of the world's soul by means of 2 sutras shaped like, or sutures shaped like St. Andrew's cross. And Bailey stresses the fire symbolism of the cross and explains that all the words for cross, as in crux or cruise or crows, there's an interesting crow, which we saw at on the first instance on the Noah's Ark. It was the crow, the raven that flew away and didn't come back, and also croas and crois, and we could think of Croatia as well, and cruz as a common etymological base for the ak, ur, and os, signifying light of the great fire. The cross has been widely used as a graphic emblem. And I was wondering, Shelley, can you put some music on real quick? I've got one thing I've got to do, and I just need about a 2-minute break, and then we'll be back. If we can go. We can't come back if we can't go. Shelley, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I'll be right back. And don't forget, you are tuned in to the Forbidden History Live, ladies and gentlemen. Do tell a friend. Don't go away. We'll be right back. You knew that already, didn't you? I'm back. Shelley, can you hear?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, way to go. Thank you. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we're having to relocate. We're being forced out on the street by the local Secret Handshake Club, and so we have a major hurdle to with our expenses to relocate. And if you want to make a love gift of any size, you can do that at contact at. I see the boxes, and yeah, there you go. And we have to hire some people to help us out and get a U-Haul and all that stuff. So, any size donation would be appreciated. Contact at freeamericaradio.com is the email for the PayPal. Okay, contact at freeamericaradio.com. Where does she get this stuff? I can't get over it. She's already got her stuff packed. We're not done yet, though. So we appreciate that. And go check out our radio museum. It was good for 6 years. Now it's a radio museum. TheRealPublicRadio.net. TheRealPublicRadio.net. You'll see I am a glutton for punishment, and I did 7-day-a-week broadcasting, primetime broadcasting on the TheRealPublicRadio.net. And so there's 200 pages there of information and things of interest. A lot of the YouTubes are now obsolete, but go check it out. Okay, and yeah, we were taken down there too. They these evil, just hate people that love life, hate people that love the Yochelleg. They hate people in general. They love to abuse our society and our world without getting into that today. But you know what I'm talking about. The Secret Handshake people are the reason we have problems in our world. They're destroying our world totally. And if you want to know more about that, go to Dane Wigington when we're done here. Dane Wigington on YouTube. Okay, he will tell you how bad it is. Nobody is better in their presentation on their state of our world, based on the science, based on the facts, and all the evidence combined. Okay, so thank you also again, Shelley, for producing here for us so that we can get the message out as well. We intend to get it out and regroup and be back up as quick as we can. If we didn't have our engineers, we wouldn't be broadcasting at all right now. Okay, so they sabotaged my computers. They've deleted all my data. They came in from the outside, here in Millersburg, Ohio. So not a very nice place at all. While they claim to be a spiritual community, all a fraud. Okay, so the cross has been widely used as a graphic emblem, very largely as a result of Christian influences, but equally on account of the basic significance of the sign. For it is clear that all basic notions, whether they are ideas or signs, have come about without the prompting of any cultural influence. Hundreds of different shapes of crosses have been summarized. Sounds like Samaria, doesn't it? Summarized in work such as Linner's Symbols, Signs, and Signets. Gee, I might have to check that one out. I haven't. I missed that when I was reading it. Okay, Lerner's Symbols, Signs, and Signets. If he's referring to them here, they might be good. I'm almost done with both of my dictionaries now, and I have to check this one out on the internet, see what it's about. So it has been found, and it has been found possible by the study of graphic symbolism to elucidate the particular meaning of each one. Many of them take the form of insignias of military orders, medals, etc. The swastika is a very common type of cross. See also swastika. The Egyptian Metzarem serrated cross is particularly interesting in view of its antiquity. I believe it's talking about the Ankh, right? In Egyptian hieroglyphics, it stands for life or living, Nemank. The forms part of such words as health and happiness. Its upper arm is a curve, sometimes almost closed to form a circle. NL analyzes this hieroglyphic as follows. The phonetic, and I just remembered you got a question, Ninja, so I'll be right back, okay? I'm almost done here. NL analyzes this hieroglyphic as follows. The phonetic significance of this sign is a combination of the signs for activity and passivity and a mixture of the two, and conforms with the symbolism of the cross in general as the synthesis of the active and the passive principles. The very shape of the anserated cross expresses a profound idea, that of the circle of life spreading outwards from the origin and falling upon the surface, that is, upon the passivity of existence, which it then animates, as well as soaring up towards the infinite. It may also be seen as a magic knot binding together some particular combination of elements to form the individual, a view which would conform its characteristic life symbolism. It may also signify destiny. Judged from the macro symbolism, it may also judged from the macrocosmic point of view, that it is of its analogy with the world. The Ankh cross may represent the sun, the sky, the earth, by reference to the circle, the upright and the horizontal lines, as a microcosmic sign that is by analogy with man. The circle would represent the earthly head, or the reason, or the sun, which gives him life. The horizontal arms, the horizontal being the arms, his arms, and the upright, his body. In sum, the most general significance of cross is that of the conjunction of opposites, the positive or the vertical, the male, the female, the negative or the horizontal, the superior with the inferior, life and death. The basic idea behind the symbolism of crucifixion is that of experiencing the essence of antagonism, and not to mention the crown of thorns, an idea which lies at the root of existence, expressing as it does life's agonizing pain, not to mention the spear, which is the sphere, the round, the sphere, the eye of the spear. Its crossroads of possibilities and impossibilities, of construction and destruction, evola, suggests that the cross is a synthesis of the seven aspects of space and time, the seven planets, including sun and moon, because its form is such that it both maintains and destroys free movement. Hence, it also symbolizes transcendence. Hence, the cross is the antithesis of the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its tail, the continual going around. That's why it is also then called the black sun, because it's nailed to the sun in the sense of what occurs, denoting the primeval, archaic dynamism which precedes the creation of the cosmos and the emergence of order. There is thus a close relationship between the cross and the sword, since both of them are well wielded against the primordial monster. Okay, so we see the Ouroboros is the sun eating the serpent eating its tail is the day that continues. The sun continues to go round and round and round, beginning and end, beginning and end, beginning and end. That's the symbol, okay, of that. So, all right, and we're going to just leave it there. I think we've done enough damage for one day, unless, oh yeah, Ninja had a question. Let me see what that is. Let me go there and see if I can find out what that was. Hang on. Okay, question. Do women wear dresses to hide the shape / temptation? Yeah. Well, because women are designed obviously different than men, and therefore women are represent sensuality, and okay, and so that's why women. We know that Islam, they take it to the extreme, but it never was meant to be like that. And but in the time of Zavram Haim, when women did cover their face as part of a so that man would not be captivated by them, or they might become captive by the man. You know what I'm saying? So man becomes captivated, then the women becomes captive, right? So the women, because they represented the world of sensuality, then they were to be dressed modestly, of course. And so so that's basically the in simple terms the essence of that. Okay. And modesty in a spiritual tradition belongs to all, both male and female. That's a part of the coming up to the higher level, and so people don't get it today in spiritual traditions, and that's because they've been not looking at the true tradition, but at the false traditions. Okay, so I can tell I'm losing my voice here, and I've got to maintain it for tomorrow. We're going to be back on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and so I've got more quotes here, more symbolism, and I'm going to be sharing that with you. Okay, and so I hope that everybody has a safe day out there. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'm Desert Owl telling you, don't forget, if you want to know the future, just look for the Forbidden History, because it's all right here. And thank you for telling your friends and for your support. And Shelley, thank you as well. We'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, coming up, Dane Wigington. Go check it out. Dane Wigington, YouTube. Peace and love, everyone. Bye.